George Jalinos' story begins with a long and arduous journey traveled by his grandfather in 1911. The late George Fattel arrived at Ellis Island as a passenger in steerage via a crowded steamship from his beloved Syria. George recounts his grandfather's story, describing how the senior George was mesmerized by the sight of the Statue of Liberty and the promise of his new home. A home that would shape the community leader, philanthropist, and successful businessman that his grandson would become. George Jalinos was born in 1951 to Nasri Jalinos and Lily Fattel Jalinos. His upbringing in both Paterson, New Jersey, and Little Syria, an Arab enclave in Brooklyn that attracted many newcomers, was shaped by his parents' love for their heritage. As the resident MC at local haflats or parties, George's father's welcoming spirit helped unite and gather a growing Arab immigrant community as they adapted to their new home. His mother was known to embrace newcomers by supporting them through their citizenship process, connecting them to resources, and even taking them in as family. At 17, George's life was appended when his father passed tragically. While this loss left a tremendous void, it served as the catalyst for George's determination to keep his father's memory alive and continue his legacy of hospitality, generosity, and belonging. George is inspired by the Arabic proverb, Yalli khallaf mamat, which loosely translates to, he who leaves something behind never truly dies. As a student at Fordham University studying economics in the 1970s, George's commitment to addressing misconceptions about Arab Americans began to blossom, particularly as he worked to establish a youth group dedicated to fostering a greater understanding of the Arab world and stronger relationships among students from different backgrounds. This was done through various initiatives, including a UN-sponsored panel. With his graduate work under his belt, George's career in finance was launched through his acceptance to Citibank's prestigious credit training program. His tenacity, innovativeness, and ability to speak several foreign languages made him indispensable to the company's divisions in Brazil and Saudi Arabia. During his tenure, he rose to the position of the youngest international vice president within Citibank, serving as deputy head for the western region of Saudi Arabia. In 1979, George married the love of his life, Jeanette Haddad, and returned to New York, where he was able to expand his philanthropic endeavors. Shortly after, George began to notice that some of his loved ones, many of whom stepped in as a support system after his father's passing, were entering their final stage of life. Compelled by his love of and commitment to his community, and in order to help secure proper care for this aging population, George became involved with the St. Nicholas Home for the Aged, an Arab American project that serves the needs of the elderly from all backgrounds. George has remained active in this work for over 20 years.
George played a critical role helping the Syrian of Aleppo during the horrible civil war. He was helping the Bishop of Aleppo, who was visiting New York, and he and other Arab Americans in the community put together a program for him, helping him raise financial resources and humanitarian resources so he could help these people in a very difficult environment.
In 1995, George founded the Galen Group and Galen Realty, focusing on commercial real estate asset management services. He also served a 15-year term as board member with the Arab Bankers Association of North America, where he helped build bridges between financial professionals in the U.S. and the Middle East. A brilliant visionary who has worked tirelessly to ensure the Arab American narrative is preserved and shared, George donates his wisdom, talent, and commitment to a number of organizations, including the Arab American National Museum, which he serves as a board member of and committee chair to the museum's popular Little Syria exhibit.
George Jalinos has that unique personality that has an aura about it that brings you into his web, and he weaves you in there and you can't get out. And what a beautiful web to be woven into. And it's called the Arab American Pride and Heritage. George has the ability to bring people together and energize them to rally around causes that benefit the Arab American community. And he has brought to every organization, Arab American organization that he joined, being a director or board member.
George also helped establish the Salam Club of New York Foundation, a foundation that has helped Arab American professionals raise over $1.3 million in support of critical causes across the country, as well as their ancestral homelands. He has also helped resource the community in the areas of policy, education, philanthropy, and professional development through his support for various Arab American organizations. Peace, safety, and relief are the basic securities that George hopes to provide for families in need. Through his work with a New York-based Arab American committee affiliated with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, he has helped raise $1.5 million for children battling cancer.
George introduced me to St. Jude's and to its story and its origins in the Arab American community over 10 years ago. And since then, it's been such an integral part of my own giving and of our family's activities in giving. And that really, again, is George being able to convey such an authentic passion and interest in the good of our community, the generosity of our community, and to really be a role model.
George's work with the Arab American Support Center has helped countless immigrants build new lives in the United States, a value inherited from his mother. His compassion knows no boundaries and extends beyond the U.S. to numerous charities across the Arab world. When George visits Ellis Island, he is reminded of the sacrifice his grandfather and many other immigrants have made for their families. For George, giving back is about honoring the legacy of those who came before him and building on the foundation they have established. These are the values he has passed on to his sons, Victor and Matt, and his 4 grandchildren. His passion for his heritage, love of community, empathy for the underserved, and commitment to making the world a better place have earned him the admiration of many, along with the distinguished designation of the 2022 Outstanding Arab American Philanthropist of the Year.